Hello everyone, this is the intro video for the Silver Quality Award application sections 1 through 6. To begin with, I want to explain how the Silver Quality Award application is set up and how it is best to approach the entire application. So this is an introduction to the sections 1 through 6 in the Silver Quality Award application. So let's just get started. First and foremost, there are two different kinds of or categories of questions that we use in the Silver Quality Award application. The first question is always the basic question. You're going to find the 1.1a question is what we would consider to be the basic question. And every question underneath 1.1a are the overall questions. And what that really means is the basic question is at the heart of what we are trying to uncover. We want you to tell us exactly what answer that basic question as simply as possible, as clearly as possible. And then all the questions underneath it are really more like supportive questions. They are the overall that add flavor, kind of add a bigger picture flavor, a bigger picture, I don't know what I'm saying, a bigger picture to that first basic question. So you want to be sure that you're answering both the basic and the overall. And just as a little FYI, a heads up, you need to answer the basic question fully in order to get full credit for the section. That first question, 1.1a, 1.2a, 2.1a, all the A questions are the basic question, and they are very, very important. Not to say that any question is not important, but just trust me when I say the basic question is pretty important. There's two of the most important questions are the basic and the question of learning. So you always have to, if you are answering the basic question right and the learning question right, you're in really, really good shape. So the basic and the overall. When it comes to answering questions, keep in mind that there is a difference between anecdotal answers, effective answers, and systematic. We are really looking for both effective and systematic. Effective and systematic. What does effective mean? Effective means that you easily and clearly can demonstrate through your literature, through writing in your application, telling us exactly what you do, and it has to be what we would consider. Now keep in mind, most of us work in senior care in a leadership capacity. Most are administrators or DONs or QA nurses. They know long-term care. We know long-term care. And so you have to make sure that whatever you're telling us makes sense, that we can see that it's effective, that it's a process that makes sense to us as well. Systematic means it is measurable and repeatable. You don't have, I think one of my favorite aha moments that I've had attending workshops myself. I'm always attending Quality Award workshops. The biggest aha moment I had came from another consultant who said that what he tells his clients to think of is you probably have a process for everything. However, many of our processes are what we would call informal. And what he tells his clients, what I'm going to tell you because I think it's brilliant, is to always try to take and look for your informal processes and figure out how to make them formal. And the way to make an informal process a formal process is by making it systematic. Make it repeatable, measurable, so that it becomes a formal process and systematic. The other thing I want to point out is about the 3 types of questions in the application. And these 3 types of questions are in the bronze application, the silver application, and the gold application. They're all made up of only these 3 types of questions. They are the what question, the how question, and the who question. And now you can see the organizational profile is heavy on what questions. Heavy. 53 what questions. There's only 1 who question and only 2 how questions. This is very important to note because this 1 who question doesn't even exist in section 1.1 through 6. We don't ask who. Who, there's only one who question, and it is perhaps one of the most important questions of the whole application because it's asking who is your customer, who you're trying to serve, who are your stakeholders, right? Like it's a very, very important question. Then there are only two how questions. Whereas from sections 1 through 6, which is what we're going to be getting into, look at how it turned the tides. We went from only 2 how questions to 108. 108 how questions in sections 1 through 6, where there was only 2 how questions in the whole organizational profile. And then conversely, where there was 53 what questions, there are 11. Actually, there's 12. I should have changed that to 12 because I split 2 that doesn't matter. I'll tell you in a second. I split 2 that could have been 1, but I made them 2. So it's really 12 what questions in the application. So when we're looking at these 2 different types of questions, the what question and the how question. The how question refers to your process. It's always the process. We're looking for a step-by-step process. Tell us how you do something. 108 times we're asking you to tell us the step-by-step how you do something, the process you do it. The what questions, however, are specifically what you're trying to do. What is your goal? What are we doing here? What is the whole point of all this? And I think that the what questions are, even though there's only 12 of them, I think they're so important and will help you be able to formulate all your responses right from the beginning that I want to start here. I want to start with the what questions. So, and then my little blurb about my what questions, just wanted to just point out that what is always factual, always specific, descriptive, detailed information about what it is you are trying to do. So here we go. These are the 12 what questions. And before we get to the first what question, I want to point out these 2. These are the 2 that I split out. They're normally as one question. What are your strategic advantages and what are your strategic challenges? But I broke them out into 2 because that word and, anytime you see the word and, anytime you see the word and, especially when it's in capital letters, it means there's more than one part to the question. Your strategic advantages and your strategic challenges you already answered in your organizational profile. And most likely you heard me say to pause on the advantages and challenges until you get to section 2.1, which is where this question comes up again. However, the more I think about it, the more I think that it's important for you to understand just what is the expectation of us, of the application asking you what are your challenges and what are your advantages. Question 2.1c is, what are your strategic objectives? And this question means, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to accomplish? That's what that question is. What do you want to accomplish? And as you think about what you're trying to accomplish in your center, I imagine, well, let me not imagine, let me say Silver Quality Award winners, Gold Quality Award winners, don't just think hypothetically out of the air going, oh, maybe we should focus on this, maybe we should focus on that. No. That's not how we do it. What do? We take a look at our strategic challenges. We look at our advantages. We do a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis where you're looking at your strengths, advantages, your weaknesses, your challenges, your opportunities, which could also be advantages, and your threats, which could also again be your challenges. You take a look at that and you use that information because you're data driven, because you're a Silver Quality Award winning organization. You think proactively, not reactively. And so with that in mind, you evaluate where you are, and you base goals on where you want to be at the end of the following year based on where you are at the beginning of the year. And the easiest thing to use as an example is, let's just say, staffing, where at the beginning of the year, maybe, I know we had a lot of turnover, high turnover, unbearably high turnover, like dangerously high turnover. And that is something that we identified as a challenge that we were having. And so what did we do? We took that challenge of high staff turnover and we made it a strategic objective. Hey, one of the things that we want to do this year is lower the amount of turnover that we have, especially at the CNA level, which is, for us, that's where our burn and churn is at the CNA level. I mean, there's a few departments that are that are burn and churn, but CNAs definitely is one of those. And so our strategic objective is based directly on our strategic challenge. Our challenge is we have a high turnover rate in CNAs. Our objective is to reduce that turnover rate. I hope that makes sense. And it's super important for us to know what our objectives are before we start our application in section 1.1 and answering the whole question of how do senior leaders lead, which is the first question. When it comes to the question of what are your key strategic related goals just simply means related to your objectives. By the way, in section 2.1, it's going to ask you, what are your key strategic objectives? What are their related goals? And then this question is going to be how. This is going to be a how question. How do your strategic advantages and your strategic challenges relate to your strategic objectives? And again, we're just looking for synergy. We're just looking for, if you have a strategic objective to reduce unplanned weight loss, then we're going to assume that you identified increased and unplanned weight loss as a challenge. Make sense? So that's why you're like, hey, unplanned weight loss is going out of control. Let's add that to our strategic objective to reduce unplanned weight loss. Something like that. So there is going to be that synergy. We are looking for some relatedness, some alignment between each one of these. The difference between an objective and a goal is an objective is what you want to accomplish, and a goal is a measure. It's a measure. It's a percentage. It is a day. It's census. It's a PPD number. It's a DSO, a day service outstanding. Your goal is to, your objective is to reduce staff turnover. Your goal is by how much? We want to reduce staff turnover by 20%. We want to increase satisfaction, resident satisfaction scores by 10%, right? So our increased resident satisfaction is our objective. By 10% is our goal, just to be clear. So we want to know what our objectives are, what our goals are, what our advantages are, what our challenges are, and then what are your key action plans. Now, a key action plan is based on, again, we're talking about your strategic objectives. If your key strategic objective is to reduce turnover, then you must have come up with 2, 3, 4 things that you're going to do, actions you're going to take to try to reduce turnover. You're going to offer a hiring bonus. You're going to expand your search. You're going to take out a television ad. You're going to go to the area hospitals or go to the area schools. You're going to open a CNA class. You're going to start offering CNA classes right in your own building. These 2, 3, 4 things are the things that you find necessary to do. They're part of your plan to fulfill whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, that strategic objective. So that's what we mean by what are your key action plans. And again, you're going to want to have, maybe 3 to 5. I'll say 3 to 5 because you want 3 to 5 of these. You want 3 to 5 advantages, 3 to 5 challenges. You don't want less than 3. You don't want more than 5. And these are all bullet points, by the way. These little action plans, these are bullet points. These are just bullet points. No long, drawn-out explanation needed. Take out add. Increase bonus, right? Like just bullet points. What are your workforce plans to support your strategic objective and or action plans? And what this is simply saying is we want to know, all right, we know what you want to do if it affects staff. If it affects staff. And imagine if you want to increase census and you have a challenge because many of us, we lost so many residents, coming out of the pandemic and everything. And even now the census is so low that if we get 3, 4, 5 admissions in a week, we have to really evaluate whether or not we even have enough staff to take on that many admissions all at once. And so when we're talking about what are your workforce plans, that could be part of it. Like, well, in order to increase our census, we've got to get retention here. We've got to be able to hire more. That's a workforce plan. Let's imagine that part of your strategy is that you want to open a new service line. You want to open an event unit or something like that, or you want to, start offering dementia care. And so that might require education, more education on higher acuity levels or whatever for your nursing staff. And so that might be a thing where your workforce plans are about adding additional education services to support your strategic objectives. So just what are your workforce plans? And then what are the key measures you use to track both daily and overall organizational performance? What are the key performance measures? What we are talking about here, this is what we're talking about. We're mostly talking about QMs, clinical QMs. We're looking for the things that you are trying to pay attention to. Falls, antipsychotic meds, weight loss, skin tears, UTIs, you name it. Like what are the performance measures that you use to track daily and overall? And we'll get into it more when we get to section 4, but daily is something that you're looking at every morning. Every morning in your morning meeting, you probably have a piece of paper that has, the 25 things or 10 things or whatever. I mean, we used to be like 3 or 4 things, and now that list has grown double-sided, so many things we have to look at every morning. And then, of course, there's the clinical side. Every time you have a clinical morning meeting, all those clinical measures that you're looking at, that's what we're looking for. Those are what we would consider key performance measures. Key or most important. If you weren't looking at them on a daily basis, they're not the most important. So just think about what you look at every day for most important. And then overall, what are your overall key performance measures? Overall normally consists of stuff like financial goals, month end, quarter, census, turnover, right? Like it's the stuff that you look at not daily, but overall, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. So it's a bigger picture rather than the micro focused in. That's the big difference between daily and overall. And finally, these last 3 questions, the last 3 what questions are all about your key work processes. What are your key work processes? So the first thing that most people get stuck up on is, well, what the heck is a key work process? Key, keep in mind, key means most important. Key, most important. And work process is simply how what you do in performance of the job that you're doing. And just think about it like this, like a key work process is like admission process, care planning, implementation, clinical, evaluation and monitoring, rehabilitation services, like activities, medical records, keeping, even like safety and infection control are considered generally key work processes. And then it's what are your key support processes. And key support questions are like administrator support, HR, human resource support, maybe supply chain management, IT, facility maintenance. We're talking about your support key, most important key support processes, and then what are your healthcare support process requirements? What this question is asking is, what are the requirements of each one of these processes, both the healthcare and the support? This is the healthcare, this is the healthcare one, and this is the support one. So what are the requirements for those? What do they have to do? What should they be doing? Now, as I hope this made it a little easier as we go through and start answering all the questions in sections 1 through 6. But let me just explain why I went into that. The reason is because there's 2 main questions that you are needing to answer in the application. And the first is the basic, like I already said, like you have to answer fully what it is you do and how you do it. But then the other part is learning. You have to demonstrate learning. And in fact, you're going to have to answer the question, how do you evaluate and improve an approach or a process that you talked about in this section? You're going to have to answer that question 12 times. In answering that question, it is always helpful to utilize or to use one of your strategic objectives, one of your strategic goals, one of your key work processes, one of your key support processes in answering the evaluate and improve questions. Demonstrating how you learn. Give us a throwback. That way it provides this one like red thread throughout the entire application. There's synergy throughout the entire application. You can imagine that if I were to draw it, it would be like who. Imagine we start with a who, and we're going to get down here, and these are the results. And I'm literally just doing this off the top of my head, but this is the org profile, and this is section 7 back here. And in the middle of who and the results, we have 2 questions. We have a what question, let me move that down. A what question, and then we have how questions or process questions. And if you can just imagine what I'm trying to demonstrate here with starting with the what questions is the what questions are going to feed the how questions, the process questions. There are going to be 12 process questions, and it's all going to be focused on what are you doing, process, how are you doing it, but what are you doing for who, and what is the result? So the who is the resident, the family member, the whoever your customer is, whoever you decide. And then every time it says, hey, how do you do something, we're talking about the process. And every time we're asking you to evaluate and improve the process, it's better to always answer it with the what questions in mind. With the data, the specific measurable data you've already indicated, or you're going to already indicate in the application in section 2, section 4, and section 6. With all that being said, let's start at section 1. I told you about 2, 4, and 6. We haven't even started with section 1. That'll be the next video. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if this was helpful, because I'm really interested in ensuring that I'm doing a really good job for you. I really want to make sure it's clear. There's 3 types of questions. There are what, there's who, and there's how. Sections 1 through 6, I want to start with the what, then we go into the how. There is only one who question. That's in the org profile. All right, let's move on to section 1.1.